I think it's just going to be the calm before the storm, basically, in 2 weeks' time.
Well, I've heard some rumors that as early as next week we're going to see a news release about Series 6 Apple Watch.
Really? Outside of like any sort of keynote thing?
Right. So the rumors right now is that iPad Air and Apple Watch are just going to get like newsroom press release drops. They're not going to have actual keynotes. And according to John Prosser, as well as a couple other sources, that announcement will happen next week. Well, and to follow that up, iPhone keynote's not supposed to happen until the middle of October at the earliest.
That's what I was going to get at, yeah. Because the iPhone's supposedly delayed. So they need to, and I guess the watch and the iPad and maybe HomePod or whatever is not having the same delays. Probably because they make like a quarter, like a tenth of as many of those products. HomePod probably like 100th of as many.
Right.
Yeah, they can just get them out the door on more of like a regular time frame.
All right. Well, I really need your help, James.
I saw you put a little note into the show notes, and it's got me all worried.
Okay, so
I'm duly worried.
At this moment, I'm signed up with Samsung to get the invitation whenever it comes out to purchase the Galaxy Fold 2. And I also am, if I turn right now and look at my main non-podcasting computer, I have the Microsoft website pulled up with a Surface Duo sitting in the shopping cart.
Wow. You're a traitor.
Yeah, exactly. I'm having a really hard time this year being enthusiastic about what's going to be coming in the iPhone when I'm seeing all these new form factors and just outside the box thinking on phone designs. And I'm really, really strongly considering jumping ship and picking up either a Fold or a Surface Duo. And
well, I think your lack of enthusiasm is warranted because there's a heap coming out, especially in the last month and two. And heaps of interesting stuff. And I don't think there's anything going to be that interesting about this year's iPhone unless there's some major thing that just has not been rumored at all. And it's just going to completely blindside us.
They actually have a folding iPhone this year. That's what it would take for me to be excited.
That's what it would take. For someone like you who always wants to have like the new toys, right?
Right.
You demand to be you demand titillation. And a folding device is going to give that to you. And Apple's not delivering.
Exactly. I'm falling back into the mindset I had 2013-ish, back when I was getting a new phone every 4 to 6 months whenever the next flagship came out.
You're serious? 4 to 6 months?
It was going from the Nexus to like the Galaxy Notes, and then I'd get the iPhone for a bit, and then whatever else came out, the Nokia Windows phones. I would jump ship every few months because something new and shiny came out that I thought was cool, and I haven't been that excited about phones in about 7 years, and now suddenly I'm getting that feeling again. I'm like, man, I want to try out all of these. They all look cool and fun again.
The last iPhone I was excited by was the iPhone X because it got rid of the home button. It had more or less an edge-to-edge display, had the Face ID. I was very excited about that.
Yeah.
But either side of that, the years before it, the years after it, I've been utterly bored. As it goes to show that I had just iPhone 6 and 6Ss and SEs for the last few years, basically. Right. And now a 10R, which is far from being a flagship device. It's a few years old, and it wasn't even the flagship when it came out. So I can certainly sympathize with that feeling you've got.
I think I'm in too deep, though. As much as I would love to have a Surface Duo or a Galaxy Fold 2, I'm too entrenched in the ecosystem at this point. Between
ecosystem lock-in. That's what Apple has been working towards for a long time. And they've got you trapped.
I share all of my family photos with my whole family through shared iCloud photo albums. I manage my kids' iOS devices through the shared family accounts, and I've got Apple Watch, I've got computers, I've got an iPad. I lose all that cohesiveness the moment I throw an Android device in the mix, and so it's hard to justify. That's the only thing keeping me in. It's not that I want the iPhone at this point in time. It's just I'm kind of stuck.
What my brother has done is he ditched his iPhone, but he kept his iPad just to be able to manage all that sort of stuff. So he's still on the iCloud photos, he still gets iMessages, blah, blah, blah. Right. But his phone is actually something else. So could that be an option for you?
Potentially. I've already thought about that. It becomes a headache because I'd still want all my photos to be organized in iCloud. So I would have to, any photos I take, I would have to sync maybe through Google or whatever other solutions there are to my iPad and then transfer them to my iPhoto library so I can share them with family. And there's a lot more problems that need to be solved by switching devices. If I get a Surface Duo or Fold or whatever, my Apple Watch doesn't work anymore. So I need to figure out what's the best Android Wear smartwatch, which my understanding is there isn't one.
I'll tell you. Yeah, there isn't a best one.
Right. And I mean, I guess I kind of have the headphone quote unquote problem solved. If I wanted a more cohesive experience, I'd have to switch from AirPods to something else. And if I got Samsung, maybe it's the Beans. And if I get the Surface, it's whatever their same equivalent competitor headphones is. But there's a lot of that ties in that I would have to transition over. It's more than just buying a phone.
Yeah, I mean, the AirPods would work with just plain old Bluetooth, but I've tried that before with various devices, and it's not a nice experience. Right. There's something about the way that the AirPods manages Bluetooth with the phone that works around interference, and you've got the nice sort of features as well. You're not having to go into the Bluetooth settings ever. But on any other device, you get dropouts and all sorts of nasty stuff happening.
So I think at this point, as itching as my trigger finger is to buy one of these devices, I think I'm gonna try to be patient and wait another month and a half to see what the iPhone 12 looks like, and hopefully actually seeing this physical redesign and maybe the announcement of AirTags alongside it will make me excited enough that I won't feel so bad about getting another iPhone.
Imagine feeling bad about getting the newest iPhone. That's just a sad place to be, isn't it?
I mean, I can kind of imagine it because I had a similar taste in my mouth when I bought the Series 5 Apple Watch last year. It was such a minor update. But you know me, it doesn't matter if it's a minor update. I'm going to buy it anyway. So, I don't know. I feel like I could end up in that boat again. I kind of felt that way with the 11, just because we were kind of expecting a major redesign last year and it didn't end up happening.
And it still doesn't really look like we're getting a major redesign this year.
My understanding is that we're at least getting the flat sides, which is as major of a redesign as you can expect, short of them actually doing something about the notch.
Yeah, screenshot-wise, most of the mock-ups that we've seen, not mock-ups, but leaks, I guess in quotes, still have the exact same notch.
Right.
Which we'll probably get to later, but unless that's some sort of cover-up, like an iPhone 4 and a 3GS body, then we're still going to have a notch this year.
And
which I think I said earlier in the year, if we have a notch in the iPhone, this year's iPhone, whatever it's called, Apple has fallen years behind competition, because we had the Infinity O and cutouts, and we even got phones that have fold up cameras now, but for years, literally years.
Right. Yeah, they've kind of painted themselves into a corner here. The Face ID True Depth camera system is a great, marvel of technology, and its 3D face scanning is excellent. But it's so big that they've kind of trapped themselves to this outdated design as they can figure out how to shrink it down.
It took so little time for all the other phone manufacturers to copy Apple with the notch, but then it took them even less time to ditch the notch.
Right.
That's my feeling.
Yeah, no one else was putting as many sensors into it as Apple is, though.
Well, yeah. I don't know. What are we going to... It's kind of another topic. Actually, I forgot. What topic are we on? we're on you ditching the iPhone, but we're kind of talking about iPhone 12. One of the other topics, at least.
We could transition to them, I guess.
We could transition. I don't know if you've have you said your full piece on moving away and buying these other products though? Why don't you tell me why are you going for the Samsung Fold 2?
Well, I'm definitely not going for one over the other. I've got strong feelings towards both the Fold 2 and the Surface Duo. As far as the industrial design and what I anticipate the feel of the device, I way prefer the Surface Duo. I think the nice like glass displays is going to feel better than the plastic you have to do with the Fold. I've seen people raving about how thin it is. I really like just the general size and shape of it, where it kind of looks like you're holding a notebook. As far as that goes, I love
just
the
a quick
Duo.
check. The Surface Duo it's two separate screens, right, with the hinge between them. And
Right.
what size are the screens? Like 7 inches or something crazy?
Yeah, I'm not fully sure what the size of the screens are. Let's see, Surface.
But they're
Duo.
massive, right?
It's a fairly large. They're 5.6 inch screens.
Oh, is that all? Okay.
Yeah, but they have massive bezels on the top and bottom, so they look much bigger.
Right. Okay.
Um,
And
so
it's
I like-
only got a camera on the inside, so to have an outside camera, you have to actually fold it back on itself.
Right. There's a lot of things about it that aren't great, like that it doesn't have wireless charging. The batteries seem kind of small for the kind of device it is. It doesn't have any kind of waterproofing. I don't know. It's running old processors from like a year and a half
So
ago.
why do you want it?
But like I said, it's entirely the industrial design. I think that the design is great. I think it's going to feel really good in the hand. But as far as like futuristic, like, man, this is really cool technology, having a folding screen is really wowing me as well. I haven't used a Samsung phone since the Note 3. So I'm sure my opinion is biased towards old practices they don't do anymore. But I'm not a big fan of what Samsung does on top of Android. My understanding is they've lightened that a bit, though. I think the Fold is just a little thick looking. I'm a little worried about how durable it's going to be. But it's way more futuristic. I think it'll wow me a lot more to hold that in my hand the first time. So I don't know. I'm not leaning strongly towards one or the other. I'm on both waiting lists. The Duo is like $500 cheaper though. So
$500 cheaper. That's incredible.
right.
For a device that I would argue looks better.
Right,
Maybe
I think so
missing
too.
some of the flagship features though.
So and you can put a stylus on it and write on it with like a Apple Pen-esque, whatever their Surface stylus is called. So I like the design a lot of the Duo. It's definitely a first-gen product, where the Fold 2 is a second-gen product, and it's much more refined on the initial idea. And I wish the Duo was at that point as well, so we could see a refined version of both against each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you did, I think the Duo would win if it had all the modern specs and everything else, and slimmed-down bezels and whatnot.
I just had an idea how you could solve the photos problem. You
What's
could
that?
have Dropbox on the Android device, which automatically sucked in camera roll photos, and then Dropbox would sync to a Windows computer, and then you could have like a folder action or whatever it's called on Windows, and iCloud installed on the Windows computer, and the folder action would move the photos from the Dropbox camera roll folder into the iCloud photo upload folder, and then they would upload to iCloud.
I've had spotty luck with iCloud on Windows.
Yeah. That's that small problem. That is crap.
Right.
Besides that, it's flawless solution.
So, yeah, I think it would be hard to integrate into my life. There'd be a lot of other like accessories that have to get along with it. So I think that even though I really, really want one, I don't think it's necessarily worth the trade-off at this point in time for me.
Well, we'll see what the future brings, hey? But it's an interesting thought process.
Yeah.
I'm worried for you.
I think the Surface Neo is supposed to come out by the end of the year. and I might pick that up to like quench my folding device thirst, and then I'll just have that alongside an iPhone.
Which one's the Neo?
The Neo is a bigger Duo that's actually a laptop running Windows instead of a small Android phone, but it's the same design with 2 screens.
Ah, okay. So it's a tablet. It's a laptop-sized tablet? I could just look it up. Surface Neo. Ah, yeah. That looks really cool. This looks like the very first tablet concepts that Microsoft ever came up with. Like early 2000s. What do they call it? The Microsoft Courier or something?
Oh, yeah. The Courier.
It looks exactly like a Courier. And they've finally done it. Well, they haven't done it yet, but...
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. Maybe if that comes out and it's good, I can get that, and then I'll be satisfied, and with my iPhone still.
Well, I hope so. For all our sakes. Next minute, we're going to be doing the r/Android show.
We can't do that.
And I'll have like no input. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the r/Apple show, talking about the hottest topics on the Apple subreddit for the last few weeks. But the biggest thing definitely on the subreddit is that Apple has revived the classic music quiz iPod game through the Shortcuts app on iOS 14. And apparently you can also get it on iOS 13 if you've got an iOS 14 device. Now, I was always an iPod Shuffle guy, so I didn't ever have this game.
Okay.
But I did, I got the shortcut on my phone, and I played it once, and just kind of found it pointless. Sorry, anyone who's actually a fan of this game, but it just told me to guess music that's in my music library. Well, yeah, it's in my music library, so I know what the songs are. Did you find it any more entertaining?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I did have iPods back in the day that I played this game on as well, so maybe there was a bit of a nostalgia in it for me. Matter of fact, I think the very first Apple device I owned was an iPod video from like 2004, 2005. I definitely played Music Quiz on that. And it was a hard game for me back then because my entire iTunes library wasn't songs I had listened to. Like my uncle gave me his iPod, was like 30 gigs of music. I just copied it all over. And so a lot of my music tastes as a kid were influenced by whatever my uncle was listening to. So
nice.
Like 50 Cent and things like that I'd never heard of before.
That kind of uncle. If I listen to my uncle's music, it's like Elvis Presley and...
Oh, he had a very diverse...
Fleetwood Mac.
He definitely had some 50 Cent on there, but he also had like the Legally Blonde soundtrack.
Of course.
So he was all over the place. And so playing that game was actually really fun and challenging for me at the time. Now I had a similar experience to you when I reran the shortcut the other day and found that, oh yeah, I know all these songs. I listen to them all the time. So there's kind of the flip side where it's an impressive shortcut, a good demonstration of what you can do with the technology.
By some accounts, the shortcut's missing a lot of the features of the original quiz. One of the commenters, this wasn't actually on Reddit, but on 9to5Mac, but there was the from Matthew Gakira. You could guess artwork, multi-choice questions about the year of an album, etc., etc. So this is a rather simplified version of the original game.
Right. I think even later versions of the game could ask you questions about like your movie and TV show library on your iPod as well.
Interesting. I'm not sure that too many people had like a massive library of videos on their iPods.
I mean, I definitely did. My entire media consumption was done on my iPod video as a kid. I'd get iTunes gift cards for my birthday and for Christmas, and I'd buy them whenever I could, and I'd buy movies or TV shows. And back then, Apple did runs where every week they had a list of like free TV episodes, and so I'd always get all the free TV episodes and watch those.
Right. Yeah, me too.
I had lots of video podcasts I'd watch, so I had a pretty big media library on my iPod at the time.
Video podcasts. I never got into those.
I definitely watched a handful of them. There was some podcast that was just like ripping videos straight off of YouTube. It was like whatever the most viewed videos on YouTube were that week, they'd pull them down and upload them as different episodes in this podcast. It's called Best of YouTube, I think. And so you could just watch YouTube videos through the podcast app.
Nice.
And then
I think there was a feature where you could actually just add your YouTube subscription RSS feed into the podcast app, and it would just give you all your YouTube videos in the podcast app. I'm not sure if that would ever have worked on an iPod video. It might have been like post iPhone days.
Right. I mean, even if it was possible, I'm sure like 5th or 6th grade me wouldn't be able to figure that out. So, but yeah, I got lots of videos. I think that was very popular at the time.
I think this would be most entertaining to be played on someone else's device rather than your own in its current format, unless you are someone that just has a massive music library of music that you don't know.
It would also probably be even more fun if they could just pull from Apple Music, either like the whatever's trending right now on Apple Music or whatever, so they can, not just depend on your library.
That'd be tricky to have the entire world's music catalog, more or less.
Right.
And then
that's why I said
you a question based on it.
Yeah, probably why you'd probably want to favor just whatever is popular at the time.
That's exactly what Google does, actually. So on any Google device, or even the Google Assistant app on the iPhone, you can say, start the music quiz, and then it'll actually let you choose the decade, 80s, 90s, and today. No, I'm kidding. Just doing that to rile you up. I can't actually remember what options it gives you. I think it's actually 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and thousands. Anyway, it'll choose the most popular songs out of that decade. And it even lets you say how many people are playing and how many rounds you want to play. And then it will actually play the audio. And then you answer back with your voice rather than an on-screen option. So that's a cool little Google feature.
In what, like the Google Home or something?
Anything that has Google Assistant. So Google Homes, Android phones, Google Assistant app on the iPhone will do that. Anything.
Interesting. That sounds fun.
It is fun. Apple is preparing 75 million 5G iPhones alongside new watches, iPad, and HomePod. 75 million sounds like a decent number, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like it's on par with their order last year, so it doesn't seem like they're anticipating much of a hit to sales numbers this year, despite the delayed launch. Yeah,
that's interesting. I don't know. Would you expect sales to be down this year? They're certainly not going up because iPhone sales are kind of peaked already.
It's possible. I mean, there's still plenty of people that are unfortunately out of work, and so maybe don't have the extra money to spend on luxury goods like upgrading their phone.
Exactly.
But it doesn't seem like Apple's predicting that. Now, as far as the 5G aspect of this, I just can't be more underwhelmed by 5G in its current state. Mm-hmm. That's another big, I don't know, it just seems like a waste of money at this point. Like everything I've read says it's going to cost like up to $50 extra to put millimeter wave technology in these iPhones. And so Apple's trying to cut costs however they can, be it removing accessories from boxes or I think I even saw a recent rumor today or yesterday about they're possibly rolling out iPhone 12s in some countries without the millimeter wave technology. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't make a difference to me. I'm on a carrier that has millimeter wave, but when it's only as effective as Wi-Fi, and then I have to be within a few hundred feet of this millimeter wave transmitter and pretty much line of sight to it, that's not going to change my day-to-day at all.
how often are people like out in the open and also needing like massive 4G, more than 4G speeds? It must be like such edge cases. When people are indoors, there's a fairly decent chance they're on Wi-Fi that's going to be fast, extremely fast, faster than. Actually, I'm not sure what the promised 5G speeds are, but in a lot of cases,
yeah, millimeter wave can theoretically go over a gigahertz, or 1 gigabit per second, but in practice, we're seeing about 500 megabit per second, which is still pretty fast in ideal conditions.
Yeah, it's pretty fast. There's also the other problem that, at least for me, mobile data limits are still extremely small.
Oh, you have a data limit?
Yeah, data limits are definitely still a thing where I am. I know a lot of the world's, well, I'm not sure how much of the world wouldn't have data limits, but yeah, we're talking like an expensive plan would get you maybe like 50 gigs a month. Now, if you're doing like 500 megabit, you're going to burn through that in no time at all. Someone else can do the maths on that.
Right.
But when the majority of plans are sitting like 5 to 10 gig a month, no one is clamoring for 5G and these massive speeds. In fact, people just want, like, I don't know, better data compression so they can watch more YouTube on the train without it chewing through their 5 or 10 gig a month.
Right. So yeah, the technology results in a more expensive phone that's going to have a higher battery drain, and for no positive real uptake in my mind, not until this technology is super widespread. Not that millimeter wave is the only kind of 5G. I'm forgetting the terminology for the other one. Is it 6 gigahertz or something?
Centimeter wave?
Centimeter? I don't know. But anyway, the other technology, which is being adopted by carriers that I don't have, is supposedly only a very marginal improvement over LTE, which I've never complained about. I think my LTE speeds are just fine.
Yeah. Yep. I think even capacity is something that carriers could work on instead, because when 4G was first available, the speeds were tremendous, and then as more people went on 4G, it became slightly more congested. The speeds got worse and worse.
Right.
I don't know if it's just a factor of 4G that it's not possible to add more capacity, but I'll doubt that. So, yeah.
Well,
I'd certainly vote for high capacity cell towers.
Supposedly 5G is supposed to be better about that, but have yet to see any of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, 4G was certainly better at it than 3G. I remember being at like a football stadium or something back when 3G was a thing, and when you've got 60,000 people trying to use 3G at once, it was unusable. But on 4G, you can be in the exact same scenario, and you'll actually have a half decent signal. Send out your selfies of sitting in a stadium as everyone does. Although, no one except the city I live in is going to stadiums anymore.
Right. Since this is our only topic mentioning it, I also wanted to bring up this new iPad Air redesign.
Oh, yeah.
I like it quite a bit. I like that they're bringing the Pro design language down to other devices. And it's interesting to me that in this alleged redesign, they're putting Touch ID in the power button versus incorporating Face ID. It never occurred to me that potentially this true depth camera system is potentially very expensive to implement. I don't know if they're doing this as a cost-saving thing or they're really just trying to separate their Pro from mid-range devices by keeping Touch ID on them. But I would sure would like to see Face ID come to the whole lineup if they can afford it.
Well, this is incredibly interesting. If they actually bring a different form of Touch ID to the iPad and just don't use Face ID, some people are going to say, oh, actually, this works better than Face ID. Well, some people are actually going to prefer it. And then you start to wonder, well, why didn't they do this to begin with? I know that Face ID is, what is it, like 1 in X million chance of someone else being able to unlock your device unless it's like a sibling.
Mm-hmm.
Compared with Touch ID's got a much higher chance of someone else being able to unlock your device with their fingerprint.
Right.
But I think if you gave people the choice of what they wanted, you'll see a lot more people opting for Touch ID in a power button. It's very natural to pick up a phone and have one of your fingers on the power button. Doesn't matter what side the power button is, or if the phone's on its face or on its back, or if your phone's in your pocket. Like when you go to pick up your phone, unless it's upside down, there's a good chance one of your fingers is going to be resting on the power button. And then by the time you bring it up to your face, it's already unlocked.
I agree when we're talking about phones. I would not say that's true in the case of an iPad. It's not going to be natural to pick up the iPad and have your finger resting on the power button when you pick it up.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe this is me being already spoiled by having newer iPad Pros where you can tap the screen to wake. It used to be common practice. You had to press a button to turn the screen on in the first place. So it's not that much of a stretch.
Yeah, I guess, when you're picking up an iPad, especially with the button on the top, if that was the case, which it probably won't be. But yeah, you're not really touching it, are you?
So I'll be interested to see how they market it. And I'm really interested to see them do away with the home button across their entire product line. Because at that point, assuming the Air is the only iPad, if the Air is the only iPad to get this update, then what we have, the base model iPad, the iPad mini, and the iPhone SE are the only 3 devices left that have a home button. And there's already rumors of the SE Plus going to the all-screen design. So I think we're maybe a year, maybe 2 years most out from seeing the home button go away entirely.
I'd peg it at something more like 2 years.
Yeah.
They must have such incredible capacity to crank out Touch ID, after making it for so many years and like so many billions of Touch ID devices. Like it would be such a waste to have to turn all that off.
Well, Touch ID doesn't have to go away if they're moving it to the power buttons or maybe even under screen like some of the rumors about the SE Plus.
Yeah, but it's on different processing equipment, so
sure.
You'd have to revamp, I don't know how many thousands of devices are used to create the Touch ID in its current format, and all of it would have to change if it went under screen or home button.
Right.
I've never even used a device with Touch ID with fingerprint sensing in the power button. It's always seemed like an attractive place to put it, but in real world testing, I've never done it.
Yeah, I can't say I have either. My days of jumping phones ended about the same time Touch ID came out on the iPhone, so I didn't get a chance to see how all the other carriers implemented it after that point.
It didn't take off, that's for sure. Like it didn't really become a thing.
It seemed like people settled on the back was better.
Exactly. I was going to say that, yeah.
Especially with some of the newer Nexus devices with not only it being a fingerprint sensor, but also kind of a way to recognize gestures. I know you can swipe down on the back and it invokes the notification shade. So a little dual purpose.
Now, the Apple Watch is also part of this article, but we can leave that because it's the next topic and just quickly talk about the HomePod, because part of this rumor or report from Bloomberg is that the smaller HomePod is coming will renew its push into the smart home at a lower price, albeit with fewer speakers inside the device. Well, I guess if it's smaller, it's going to have fewer speakers because currently it's one woofer in the middle, or subwoofer, and then some crazy amount of mid-range or tweeters or something kind of around the side. What is it, like 7 or 5?
It's a lot. So I'm not sure what the number is.
Yeah. Man, the photos of the HomePod without that fabric-y cover on it just look comical. I'd encourage anyone to go and look it up if they haven't seen a naked HomePod. It is quite ugly. But also interesting how the speakers are arrayed, like they're all pointing down. When you see it, you kind of expect speakers like kind of in the middle of it pointing out through the fabric, but in fact that's not really the case. Anyway, go and have a look. It's like a tube with holes at the top and bottom. But we've talked about smaller HomePods before. Certainly about cheaper HomePods and just the ubiquity of Google Home. Is that the word, ubiquity?
Yeah.
No, ubiquity? How it's everywhere?
Yeah.
Okay, good. The ubiquity of Google Home. Like, you can hardly walk down a footpath without just stumbling over Google Home. They're everywhere. And, I mean, my ISP just gives them out like candy. Like, you can barely sign up a contract without them spamming your Google Home minis. Google Nest minis, I should say.
Oh, did they rebrand
Yeah,
those?
I think... Yeah, they were rebranded a little while ago.
Huh.
I don't see that happening with a HomePod because Apple's not going to make like a $29 HomePod, that's for sure. Current one is $299 US, and a cheap one, what's it going to be? I hardly see it being $99, so maybe $199, $129.
$199 is an impossible sell when the current ones already go on sale for $199 all the time.
Oh, do they? Okay.
As a matter of fact, 2 of the 3 that I own, I bought for $199, brand new from Target and Best Buy.
Oh, so maybe we'll see like a $159, $129 type figure. They have to do something to compete with the Nest Minis, though.
Right.
If that is indeed what they're planning to do.
The problem is, the only thing the HomePod has going for it is how good it sounds. It's a really good speaker. And if you start sacrificing sound quality, then there's no selling point. Siri is not a selling point of the HomePod. It's I guess it is gaining some new support this fall for things like Spotify, but even still, I don't think anyone's gonna choose a HomePod over a similarly priced Echo or Nest or Google Home, whatever they're called now, when they all sound the same. So
my guess is that it's not going to sound the same. It's certainly going to sound worse than the regular HomePod, just due to size. You know, it's harder to make smaller things sound good. It'll probably sound a little bit worse.
Right.
But I think it's going to sound a lot better than Google's devices, Amazon's. It'll probably compete with some of Sonos' small devices. Actually, I don't even know what their small devices are.
Right.
But yeah, my guess is it's going to sound pretty decent for the size of it. And that'll be their selling point.
Yeah, if they made something half the size of the current HomePod that still blew all the other competition in the market out of the water in terms of audio quality, and if they priced it at $99, I think they would have an excellent product on their hand. I think it's going to be a hard sell for anyone as soon as you go over that $100 price point because there's so many cheaper options.
They do have that DTS guy working for them who worked on the sound of the original HomePod. So maybe he pulls some minor miracle with the HomePod Mini. I'm going to Google DTS guy so actually name him. No, that's not working. Creator of DTS. John Kirshner.
The sound on all of their devices have gotten really good. They've been able to do a lot with small speakers, like in the iPad Pros and the MacBook Pros. So maybe they can pull off some kind of miracle here with a mini HomePod.
I think I got this all wrong. I don't think it's the DTS guy. What's another audio thing that sounds...
The THX?
THX. Yeah, THX. Oh, we've been through this before. Yeah, you get like the history of cannabis for some reason. Tomlinson Holman. Do a quick check to make sure he works at Apple. He's an American film theorist, audio engineer, and inventor of film technologies, notably Lucasfilm THX. In 2011, he became an employee of Apple Incorporated. Yeah, Tomlinson is, I think, the main driver behind all Apple's audio improvements in recent years.
He's done some impressive work in the last few years.
That's for sure. Next up is the Apple Watch SE.
This sounds like something to be right up your alley.
Look, I was an iPhone SE fan for the form factor.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything to romanticize about the old Apple Watch form factor. It's just worse than the new one.
I mean, you're still using it today.
I am, yeah. And I'm very happy with it. But I'm not looking at it and going, oh, it's so much smaller and more compact than the current one. In fact, I think it's the same, if not slightly larger.
Right. Yeah, they basically just made the bezels smaller in the new design.
So the point of an SE is just my theory, is to reuse the old manufacturing processes for the physical device. So the form, I guess, of whatever the device is, and yet somehow save themselves money by putting the current generation or last year's generation of silicon inside the device. 'Cause that's basically what an SE was, right?
Right.
We had the iPhone SE, I should say. We can't just say the SE anymore if this rumor is true. So the iPhone SE is the previous generation of form factor with the current chip. And it got like the newish camera system as well, but I think part of that's just you get benefits from having the latest silicon in there because it can do more processing when it comes to the camera.
Right.
So if the Apple Watch SE is the same thing, and that's what this rumor is saying, it's going to be the old form factor, so Series 0 through to Series 3, but it's going to have the chip from the Series 6, which is what we're getting this year.
I think they have to do this year, or just at this point. Because if they followed their regular trend of announcing the Apple Watch Series 6 and dropped off the Series 3 and put the Series 4 in that place, there has not been much progress from the Series 4. So it'd be a really, really hard upsell if they're offering the Series 4 alongside the Series 6.
Then also the cheaper watch would be on the more expensive manufacturing process as well. So also it doesn't work for them in that way.
Right. So yeah, it makes total sense that they do this at this point, just to keep the gap between their entry level device and their flagship device as big as possible, at least like aesthetically, I guess, because performance wise they'll probably be pretty on par with each other. But that's still not very far off, considering that the Series 5 has the same silicon as the Series 4, just with a LTPO display. So yeah, they definitely need to differentiate more if they want to have these entry level and flagship devices.
It is handy that the cheaper device that you get is going to have the new chip, though. It does mean that it's going to have a pretty decent lifespan, even if it does look a little dated, a little quicker.
I think even if I had like an S2 chip in my watch, I'd probably be happy because I've not gotten in the habit of running any apps on my Apple Watch.
No, me either.
But,
except for like the messages app, I use that occasionally.
Right. Yeah, I send a few text messages from there, but besides that, just timers.
Oh yeah, the old timer app. Actually, I can take that back. There's an app I use in there all the time now. I use the Overcast podcast app on my Apple Watch all the time.
Really?
Yeah. Just to basically choose the episode. I mean, it's just a remote for the iPhone, really. I'm not using it as a standalone. The podcast doesn't exist on the watch. But say I've got my AirPods in, I don't have my phone near me, and I want to choose a podcast episode. Say I'm lying in bed. Yeah. I just got it in the dock, hit the side button, and away you go.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I guess I use my remote as well for podcasts with the Apple Podcast app, but I don't think it lets me just choose an episode. I think if I choose an episode on my Apple Watch, it's going to try to play from the Apple Watch and not the phone. Oh, no,
yeah,
wait.
I never had much luck with the Apple Podcasts app on the watch.
Let's see, I just opened the podcast app. There's a button that switches to on iPhone. Oh yeah, I can choose shows and episodes on the iPhone. I don't know, I'd have to experiment with it. I've never really tried to control it from my Apple Watch.
Part of this rumor as well is that the watches won't be coming until next year. So that's what they do with the iPhone as well, isn't it? The SE comes out like mid-cycle or whatever the regular phone is.
Right.
And it makes sense to do it like that because you don't want to steal away thunder from the main phone.
So I guess that will probably mean we're gonna see the Series 3 stick around for a little longer than normal as well, because I'm sure the SE is gonna replace that. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. So they'll announce the Series 6, Series 3 will drop in price, and then come February or March, 3 will be replaced with the SE.
Oh, you think the 3 is going to drop in price?
I haven't really kept tabs on what the current price is to say for sure. Maybe it won't. It's already pretty cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's $199.
Okay, no. It'll probably stay at that price then.
Right, and I think the SE will come in at the same price, which will be really nice.
Well, I, for one, am very happy with my Series 3. Thank you again for sending it to me, since it's your old Series 3.
Sure.
But just to touch on a topic we'll talk about later, but... Oh, hang on. I've got a baby in the room. I was going to say... what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, the Series 3 has been given even a slight new breath of life with watchOS 6. Wait, is that what we're up to?
7.
Or watchOS 7. 7. It is so snappy.
Really?
I mean, if it had Safari, it would be like... I could say Safari is snappier. It kind of has Safari.
It has a very basic web view, yeah.
Yeah, very basic. Oh, no, it's amazing. It's much faster than watchOS 6 even, which is incredible. We can talk about that later, though.
Okay.
Forget the Apple Watch Series 3. Apple Maps is to get native rating system and photo uploads for places of interest. This was kind of out of the blue, wasn't it? So this is from part of iOS 14. When did it come in? Beta 5?
Beta 6 introduced it.
Beta 6. I'm going to just bring up the UI so I can actually describe how it is.
Yeah, this is definitely the most exciting piece of news of the week for me.
So open Maps, tap on like a location that's there. First of all, I can see at the top that I tapped on one that I've already liked because it says I recommend it at the top, or you recommend it, and it's got a thumbs up. So I don't remember doing that, but apparently I've already recommended this place. And then, what do you do then? I can't even find the option anymore. Okay, so hang on. I think I might have to do it on a place I haven't already recommended. All right, let's go to some other place. Okay, yeah. So tap on some place, and then just under the rating, it's got recommend this place, thumbs up or thumbs down. You can click on either of those, and then you get actually even more options than last time, I can see. You can give it a thumbs up or down for any of the following. This is a cafe, food and drink, service or atmosphere, and then an option to add photos as well. It's like Apple is trying to build up their own little, they're adding data to their database of places. And I wonder if this is to replace what they currently suck data from, which is, I know it's different around the world, but where I am, TripAdvisor and Yelp, and occasionally I see data pulled in from Foursquare still, which is just kind of crazy.
Yeah, this could not be a more welcome update in my mind. I hate trying to read a review on Apple Maps and wanting to tap into it to expand it, only to be told to download the Yelp app to read the rest of this review.
It's an atrocious process at the moment, but this is not asking for any text, so it's not actually going to have any reviews. So how's that going to help?
I'm hoping this is step one in that process, right? So you can recommend something, and you can rate aspects of it, and you can add photos. I mean, we're only a small step away from being able to put a little paragraph description alongside your photos or whatever.
Yeah, it had better be. Most people I know have actually just given up on Apple Maps because it hasn't really shown any signs of life or improving the business listings, and that's where it lets you down. I find for actual street directions, it's fine. Right. It'll find an address. But when it comes to business listings and actual accuracy of business information, it's just so far behind Google, because Google has been accepting user submissions and prompting business owners to manage their listing for donkey's years already.
Yeah, longer than Apple Maps has been a thing.
Right. But this is, it's a sign of life. It's a sign that Apple is actually interested in business listings. And I wonder if someone's actually pushing this case, or if they've just been pushed by, I don't know, like Yelp telling them they can't have the data anymore. So they're like, oh, I guess we'd better start collecting our own.
Right.
But yeah, hopefully it's the start of even a contribution system like Google has built up. I know you know more about the Google system than me, but you get some sort of perk for contributing to Google Maps.
Yeah, there was some kind of reward system for a while, but I haven't, not something I've used anytime recently.
Imagine getting like Apple Arcade if you submit 10 reviews a month or something like that.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
You'd have the world's best user-submitted map system in the world within 2 seconds.
Yeah, they've got high enough user base. Just have to encourage them. Honestly, if they added the ability to write reviews, I'd probably just go around town and start taking photos and putting in reviews myself, just because I want to see the platform flourish.
Yeah, I'd probably be slightly motivated to do that. I did have Yelp status at some point. I can't remember what they call the high status. Elite, that's it, Yelp Elite. I was Yelp Elite for my city a little while ago.
Well, look at you.
Yeah, and then I really did persevere with Apple Maps for a while, and but nowadays I'm actually a Google Maps user, which I mean, it's good, but I do worry about the privacy aspects of it.
Yeah, my initial inclination was to say oh, I've never been bothered by the quality of Apple's business information, or whether they've been up to date on that. But then I, upon thinking about it just for a couple seconds more, realized that's because I've already learned not to rely on that, and I get all my information from Google and then go to Apple Maps to get directions.
Yeah.
So.
I think Apple Maps has taught people not to rely on it.
Right.
King Continuum in the comments. This is the top comment. This is probably the biggest, most welcome change to Apple Maps since it was first introduced. And then below a few echoes of F Yelp, blah, blah, blah. There's actually a really good interview of the Yelp CEO on the Vergecast 2 weeks ago. Worth giving a listen. I mean, people seem to hate on Yelp a lot.
My understanding is Yelp has some pretty shady practices in terms of threatening business owners with reviews or something if they don't pay for advertising.
He was actually, the CEO was not casually asked, but kind of in a roundabout way asked about that in the interview. And his response was something like, look, if everyone's happy, then we're actually not doing a good job, because the point of the system is not everyone is going to have a 5 or a 4.5 star review. And so when people have their 2-star review, then they cause a fuss. But anyway, I don't know either way to say for sure. It's still a good interview to listen to.
All right, I'll have to check it out.
So supposedly leaked iPhone 12 Pro Max screenshots have surfaced. Firstly from everyone's favorite John Prosser, but then supported or followed up by, is it Max Weinbach? Is that his name? Everything Apple Pro. Oh yeah. No, Everything Apple Pro via Max Weinbach. So what's interesting about these screenshots? Firstly, they seem to come from a product validation test. So,
right. It seems to confirm that Apple's still at least experimenting with 120 hertz on iPhones, which if they can't pull it off this year, they've failed. Every other phone's had high refresh rate displays for years now, and it's kind of getting embarrassing that Apple can't get it to work. I know their implementation is a little more complex, and they want to have dynamic refresh rates, and when you do that, you've got white balance issues that come along with it. So I understand that it's more challenging, but it just doesn't look good for them at this point.
So, is it something in this rumor that tells you that they're having trouble with it, or just like the surrounding rumors about supply chain issues and that sort of thing?
Yeah, mostly just the surrounding rumors. It seemed to be just sort of confirmed by like every leaker prior to this that Apple was not going to be able to pull off 120 hertz this year. They've had too many quality control issues or whatever it is. And it was only this leak here that kind of renewed interest that maybe they can still pull it off.
It would be a huge miss. Like you said, all the flagships are upping their refresh rate. Even the flagship iPad has had it for how long now?
3 years.
It's unusual that they would have supply chain issues when they've already been kind of doing it for so long already.
Well, doing it on an LCD display versus OLED is a completely different beast.
Okay.
But some also interesting features that at least they're testing, according to these screenshots, is 4K at 120 and 240 frames a second.
Mm-hmm.
And also something about enhanced night mode, which, according to the short description in here, uses LiDAR to have even better night shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then kind of a result of these screenshots and the very vague descriptions that accompany them, it seems like it's possible we're only going to see LiDAR on the 12 Pro Max, which I don't know if I'm happy or sad about.
So returning to the days where the Max phone had the better camera features, hey?
Right. I do like it when Apple helps me make up my mind. If they have one phone that has more features than the other, it's an easy choice. But if I've got two identical phones and I'm going to order them on launch day at midnight or whatever, sometimes it's hard to decide on one over the other when I haven't held them in my hand.
Yep. You could get both and somehow fashion a hinge between the two. And you've got the iPhone Fold.
There you go.
Newest idea out of Perth, Western Australia.
I am a bit worried about a 6.7-inch phone. That sounds humongous.
Yeah, sure does. The enhanced night mode, the description is interesting. It's only available when the phone is on a tripod or a steady surface. So, to me, that sounds not like they're doing some sort of computational or like merging 4 frames into one and then massive noise reduction. It actually sounds like slow shutter. So, like the electronic shutter is going to be open for, 4 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever it takes. I believe that the current shutters are limited to like quarter of a second at the slowest.
The current night mode also requires a steady surface. I don't think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The steadier you hold it, you can handhold it, but then it only takes like a 3-second exposure, whereas it can get up to 10 seconds if it's on a tripod.
Okay. So this one says it's only available with a tripod. Maybe it's actually just referring to what's already there. The enhanced night mode is that difference, the 10-second mode.
Maybe. Yeah, if these screenshots are true and these are just hasty write-ups for testers, then it's really hard to judge exactly what all these features are going to be used for.
And on that point, there are quite a few people in the comments saying that things are, misspelled or not spelled the way that Apple would spell them, like slow-mo versus slow-mo. But as you just said, these are, not intended for the world, and I doubt they go through the level of quality control that actual production phrasing and captioning has.
Oh yeah, of course. The products I work on for work, we have something that looks exactly like this, a back-end toggle section when we're experimenting with features. And as far as I'm concerned, this looks exactly like what a testing environment would look like, with a bunch of misspellings or not company approved wording of things. And yeah, this is exactly what I expect to see, and only adds to the validity of it in my mind.
One toggle in there that's not mentioned in the article is enable bit depth video. You have any idea what that refers to? Is it something that already exists?
That's not something I'm familiar with at all.
What it sounds like, just at first glance, is like portrait mode video. That could be way off, but oh, yeah, I'm not sure. What else could it be?
Well, I don't know. I honestly can't. I can't even speak to it. I think bit depth is its own thing, like a term for like saying a product has 10-bit or 12-bit color. That's its bit depth.
Right.
So I'm not sure if it's actually like a depth kind of thing in that regard or not.
Maybe it's referring to raw video, because something the iPhone can't do is raw video. Now that's a fairly novel sort of feature. Like even high-end video cameras, it's pretty rare to get raw video.
Huh. What's the advantage of using raw video?
Well, currently, when you take a video on the iPhone, it'll do all its processing for you. Like it'll color grade it, it'll do the contrast, it'll do noise reduction. So it really limits the sort of post-processing you can do. So, I mean, for the casual user who's just taking a photo, it's fine. You want that to happen because, an unprocessed image or video just looks bad. Mm-hmm. But anyone who's actually doing a professional production wants like as raw of a signal as they can get so that they can do their own post-production to whatever their standards are. Now, you won't find a professional photographer who shoots in JPEG, for example. Well, you shouldn't. They would all shoot in RAW, and the iPhone has been able to deliver RAW images, although not through the stock camera app, since the 6S, I believe. So, who knows? But that is a very slim chance that that's what it refers to.
Well, I'm holding you to it now.
All right. And if I get that right, I'm going to go buy myself one of these phones just as like a pat on the back.
Okay.
You want to talk anything else about these screenshots?
I don't know if there's much more to get out of it at this point. I guess it might be worth mentioning that there was even a slight more bit of validity added to them by John Prosser. After sharing the photos, he shared what appeared to be a video of a test device actually showing the screen. So screenshots can be faked, video is a lot harder. So it just seems even more plausible from that video.
I just stuck in at the end there, beta OSs, because I've updated everything now to the beta OSs.
Yeah.
And I have to say that they are all rock solid. I've already mentioned watchOS 7. Like, the only issue I've come across is that for some reason it takes like twice as long to charge now. I don't see how that's even a thing, like even a bug, but it takes like 2 hours instead of 1 hour to charge the watch to full from close to empty.
I wonder if it's trying to do that smart charging thing where it charges to 80% and then waits until the last minute to charge the other 20.
Ah, okay. Yeah, maybe it is.
They just changed how that worked a bit or something. Maybe
it's stuck on the slow charge.
Maybe.
Or does it do like a gradual charge to 80 as well as part of it?
I think it does. I think it charges regularly until 80%, and then it uses, AI to assume when you're going to take it off and start charging at the last minute so that it's full when it thinks you're going to want it.
Well, the AI is certainly not working out what I want, because since I wear my watch like 24/7, I only have that 1 hour and I want it to go from 0 to 100 as quickly as possible.
Right.
Right, okay. That could be the explainer for that. But the whole watch is just so much faster than it was on watchOS 6. That's really, really good.
That's awesome.
I even updated my MacBook. Actually, the MacBook was the catalyst, because I was having just so many issues with Catalina. And the two that stood out was since like 3 weeks ago, there was an update to Catalina. Sorry, have I been saying Catalina? I updated to Big Sur, of course. But since the last update to Catalina, I was getting all sorts of video glitches, and actually haven't had my time machine backup work properly on Catalina for a long time. Apparently that's very widespread, and if you're relying on time machine and Catalina, then you should be worried about it. And Big Sur actually solved all those problems. My time machine has been flawless, all the video glitches are gone, and I'm not sure I've run across a single bug, which is just incredible, because I'm normally very reticent to install any macOS updates because of previous macOS betas, because of previous experiences with them.
Right.
And finally, iOS. I don't think I've come across a single bug in the beta OS, which is, again, fairly incredible.
Have you started using any widgets now that you're on iOS 14?
No, I've not had a single widget. Occasionally I'm like looking through them, seeing what I could add.
Mm-hmm.
But none of them are handy. I do like just having the widgets on that screen to the left of the home screen. They look better. They seem to be more responsive. And I kind of just like them there more than having them on the home screen.
Yeah. I've got a calendar and weather, and those are the two things that I like to have glanceable information.
Okay. I've certainly got those on at the very top of my widgets, but yeah, just not on the home screen. I might try adding them there.
I think once we get to third-party apps, we'll see some better widgets.
Yeah, that's when I'm going to revisit it for sure. And I do like just having a single home screen and then just chucking everything else in an app drawer. I really like that. Although, between betas, it does seem to like resort the apps a little bit. So it takes a little bit of getting used to.
Yeah, I kind of wish you could sort the app drawer manually.
Actually, no, I don't wish you could sort it manually, because that'd be just like a thing that you had to do to make it optimal. I'd prefer just to leave it up to the AI to do.
I guess it's not really meant to be something that you are meant to be digging through folders in the app library too much. It's more, if you're swiping over there, you should probably be searching at the top instead.
Yeah. If the app library was sortable, it may as well just be a bunch of folders on the second screen.
That's true. Well, in that regard, I kind of wish maybe then the primary view when you went to the app library was the alphabetical list instead of showing you the folders.
That was exactly going to be my next point.
Yeah.
I'd much prefer to swipe and get the list as the default, and then somehow have a feature to go to the library.
Maybe it's a toggle they can add in a future update.
Apart from that, I don't think I've noticed anything really. Actually, one very, very minor thing is that you can zoom much further in on photos now.
Right?
That's cool. Because most of my photos are from a DSLR. So, yeah, it is handy to have that zoom. So, yeah, beta life. It's better than it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good year for betas.
I'm James VDM on Reddit and Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.
And you can find show posts at reddit.com/r/TheRAppleShow.
All right.
Cheers. How's Corona treating you?
It's been okay. The kids started school again last week, and so transition to that schedule's been a little interesting. They're doing like a hybrid learning thing, I guess is what they're calling it. The kids are going to class 2 days a week right now, like in person, and they're doing that for the first few weeks of the school year, and then they're going to reevaluate and see how that's working, or if they're going to keep the schools open at all. So to be determined what actually happens long term.
Which way are you crossing your fingers?
I guess I want to wait and see the information before I have a real thought. If I was hoping for the best, it's that there hasn't been any more cases of spread as a result of this, and they can keep the schools open. But if this is turning out to be an issue and it's putting kids and teachers at risk, then fingers crossed the board makes the right decision and shuts the school down and transitions to online. Because I'm in a pretty stubborn community that would say, like, no, we should be in person anyway. So,
Okay. Are you very inconvenienced when the kids are home?
I'm not super inconvenienced. They're with their mom during the day. They come to my house in the evenings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make too much of a difference on my end. But I think if they did go to all online, we'd probably have to find some kind of arrangement where maybe even we split them up, because a household with 4 kids, it'd be hard for her to be getting them all to focus. So maybe I'd have some at my house during the day and she'd be helping a couple and I'd be helping a couple.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you?
We're like 3 or 4 months with 0 cases here, basically. So, yeah, things are basically back to normal. Or the only thing that's not normal is that the borders are closed to incoming and outgoing. So, chained up in the state.
Oh,
I think we just got...
not allowed to leave the state?
No.
Wow.
But as I've alluded to before, mentioned that it's like a 3-day drive to leave the state. So, there's plenty of room to play.
Right. Yeah, if I wanted to leave the state, it would be less than a 10-minute drive for me.
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah, the state of Western Australia is massive.
Well, that's really awesome that you guys have been able to get under control. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
We can get our stuff together here.
Let's see. I'm just looking up the area to try and give listeners an idea. So the area of Texas is 700,000 square kilometers, and the area of Western Australia is 2.6 million square kilometers.
Wow.
So that's to give you a scale of the state.
What is the area of Alaska in comparison?
Alaska, 1.7 million square kilometers. Wow, I didn't know Alaska was so big.
Yeah, it's huge. It just looks small.
It's always tucked away up there at the top. It just looks so much smaller.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem with maps, is things towards the north and south look smaller than they actually are.
Wow, the area of the UK is 242,000 square k's.
Well, I sold my Camaro the other day.
Oh, did you? That's sad.
Yeah, it is a little sad. When I moved, I lost the garage space for it, and so I've been keeping it at my parents' house for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
when it's not in the garage, it's hard to find the time to actually go out and drive it. And I don't know, just felt less time to get rid of since I wasn't really getting any use out of it anymore.
Mm-hmm. What's your daily driver?
My Flex.
Flex. What's that? Honda? Ford?
It's a Ford. It's the big boxy, like, station wagon minivan kind of thing.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind something smaller, like a little coupe or something in a year or so when my office opens back up. Because at some point I'll be going back into the office once every couple weeks, and that's a 4-hour round trip for me. So having something small and fuel efficient at that point would be nice.
4-hour round trip. That's brutal.
Yeah. It's not so bad when it's only every few weeks, but it'd be nice to have something smaller to do it in.
Yes, just something fuel efficient.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get a Tesla and I can just get on the road and hit autopilot, and then it'll drive me for the 4 hours.
You know what you're missing out on, though? CarPlay.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, Tesla has a pretty good infotainment system, from my understanding.
Yeah, but you're still missing out on CarPlay.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be annoying to have to play my music and podcasts and whatnot through Bluetooth.
Are you allowed to use your phone while the car is in autopilot? I know it's probably a lethal recipe, but are you allowed to?
Legally, no, definitely not. But the car almost encourages you to do distracted driving. Like Tesla has some kind of, it's a mode that if you're stopped at a red light, it'll ding for you when the light turns green because you're like looking at your phone and not paying attention to the light.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely strongly discouraged. As a matter of fact, it's actually illegal to be driving with a screen in line of sight for the driver at all.
Ah.
So, and the line defining, like there's a certain screen size that's supposed to be allowed and not. So a lot of people initially when Teslas were coming out were getting pulled over because they had big screens in their cars and the police didn't realize it was part of the car. But it made GPSs a gray area in the early 2000s and people were getting in trouble for those.
We've got a new set of fines in the state for using phones now.
Oh, really?
All right, you can guess. So there are two levels. One is using it for a phone call, and the other level is texting, emailing, video, social media.
Does a phone
Or
call
anything else.
count as hands-free count as well? Or
No, if it's in a cradle on the dash or whatever, that's fine.
okay. Yeah, because depending on the state here, sometimes it's even illegal to talk hands-free.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Tough. That's almost, yeah. It's almost forcing people to just hold their phone anyway.
Well, yeah, it's legal to talk in any format, whether you're holding it or using hands-free.
Yeah.
But I don't
If
understand.
both are illegal and you want to do it, you may as well just hold it.
Right. And it's not any more distracting than having someone sitting next to you in the car talking or four kids behind you yelling. So it's funny the things they try to enforce.
All right, so are you going to guess the fines that you get?
Okay, one for talking on the phone and one for texting and driving. And I've got to do this in Australian dollars as well. So
And there's also points associated to it as well.
I'm not going to guess points. That's not a thing in my state.
Okay. Well, you get 12 points before you lose your license to give you some sort of scale.
Do they renew at the end of a year or a certain period, or is it 12 points for your whole life?
I think it's 12 points for 5 years.
Ah, okay. Okay, so if you're talking on the phone while driving, I'm going to guess that is a $100 Australian fine?
500.
500. Wow.
500 for talking on the phone.
That's
and points,
crazy.
You want to have a guess, or I can just tell you?
If you get See, in my mind, that'd be like a 1 point thing, but that was before I heard 500, so I have no idea what the scale is going to be.
Yeah, just triple your guess and you'll get it.
3 points.
3 points. $500 is
crazy.
3 points for talking on the phone.
I never understood the argument for holding the phone to your face either, though. Because are one-handed people allowed to drive in Australia? Are one-handed
Yes.
people allowed to drive while talking to a passenger in Australia? Because if so, we're just talking about the exact same thing now. Okay, but you'll be charged $500.
That's it, yeah.
Okay. So texting and driving, man, okay.
Surely way more dangerous to text and drive.
Way more. I would have to say that's double. You'd pay $1,000
You're
Australian.
spot on.
Really?
$1,000. Yeah.
Is it also double the points?
No, they just give 1 more point, so 4 points.
Okay. Man. That is a huge fine.
It's huge, isn't it? It's monstrous. And to save anyone converting it, 1,000 Australian is $720 US. You'll cop if you're on your phone and driving a car. They're really trying to discourage people from doing it.
I mean, I totally understand the texting thing, but like I said, I don't understand the talking part.
The calling.
Right.
Yeah, anyway.
I think I've lived in cities here where it's illegal to talk on your phone, while holding it to your face. That's not a case where I am now, but it was like a $200 fine if you got caught.
Yeah, fairly nothing much, really.
Right, much more reasonable.
Yeah, very reasonable.
So, man, yeah. Well, that would definitely discourage people from doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Nice little money maker for the government as well.
Yeah, maybe that's more of the driving force behind it.
Well, the problem is that public opinion's on their side, so I think that they can see it as it's fine. Like, whereas if they doubled all the speeding fines, everyone would be like, oh, you
Right.
know, everyone speeds really. It's just a matter of who gets caught.
Right.
Whereas no one's like, oh yeah, it's fine if people text and drive and keep their eye off, take their eye off the road every 2 seconds for 5 seconds.
See, this is how I view speeding in my mind. And this is maybe more so a few years ago. It's less the case for me now. But it used to be that I'd get pulled over. It was about once a year. Every 12 or 13 months, I'd end up getting pulled over. And the fine, I always paid, in my, at least in my city, or my state, I don't know if it's true everywhere, you can pay double the fine to have it not stay on your record and go to your insurance.
Are you kidding? That sounds very dodgy. It's like a bribe.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it's not on my record. So every time I get pulled over, like, oh, you've never had a case before, so we'll be lenient and let you pay double to take it off the record. And I've done that so many times.
God. Okay. Interesting.
Anyway, so probably $150 to $200 per ticket when I'm paying double. And my idea was if I divide that over 12 months and I'm paying less than $10 a month for the privilege of driving 10 miles an hour over the speed limit every time I drive, that sounds worth it.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm with you there.
So I've certainly settled down since then, but that's definitely how I used to think.
Well, now you're just driving around in a Ford. What's it called?
A Flex.
A Flex.
Yeah, not
You
exactly
don't
a
need to
car you can
flex
hot
anymore.
rod.
Yeah. I reckon that car would look good lowered though.
I agree. There's a pretty big community around modding it.
Do you know the Cube? I'm not
Yeah.
sure what manufacturer it is.
Nissan.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that.
Yeah, or the Scion XB.
Actually, I don't know. We don't have Scions, whatever that is.
It's an offshoot of Toyota for a few years.
Okay. Oh yeah, it looks just like that. Yep. Well, the Flex is certainly the best looking of all three of those cars, though.
I've always been a fan of those boxy looking cars.
Yeah, they're quirky.